Okay, back in the building.
What up, what up? It's the Chief Kaseek Ortiz.
Tyrant333, and this is Fxck Out.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to talk about something that might confuse a lot of people. And I had to just break it down to my mans here and just finally give in and say, man, I'm confused.
Yeah.
What exactly is a single, an EP, an LP, and an album? And I guess how they're structured, because for what I thought they are, I guess that's not what they are.
Yeah. Yeah, so, actually, maybe we should start off by reading even that, what you have right here as well, so we can explain that.
I'm going to read an article right here that I got from Lander. This is a page. What is Lander exactly? They do music distribution?
They're actually like an AI mixing and mastering service, but then now they're starting to offer distribution, and they provide sounds for beat makers too.
And I'm a real smart motherfucker, right? But you got to know when to ask the right questions, because not everybody knows everything. I mean, maybe some geniuses do. That cyborg Mark Zuckerberg, he might, but
Cyborg.
Cyborg's up. But if you don't know, closed mouths don't get fed. Ask the question. Figure out where to get the right information. Get valuable, accredited information on top of that. Me, that's what makes me so smart, because I know when to tell someone I don't know something. And tell me, break it down to me in a way I can understand.
Right.
So this is what this Lander page is going to do. So this is their definition of what is a single. So strap in. Because I know there's people out there who are asking the same question, as simple as this sounds. So a release is considered a single if it contains 1 to 3 songs that are each less than 10 minutes in length. When releasing a single, don't add single to your track or album titles. Stores will add that to it if they need to. So, bong.
Yeah.
Here comes the confusion, because where my confusion sets in is I always just thought a single is what it sounds like. A single.
Yeah.
One single record that you produced any length of time, anywhere from 40 seconds to 3 minutes, 5 minutes. I thought that was a single.
Right.
And I'm informed here by Lander and other big distributors and stuff like that that's not what the definition is.
Nah, right. So when you think about like the Game, who would come out with like 300 bars and run in and be like a 8 to 10 minute song, 15-minute song, that would have basically been considered an EP, even though it's just one song.
Which is crazy. And a lot of people don't know. I don't think they know that.
Nah, the language has definitely changed over the years. So obviously a single would be 1 to 3 records. And the reason why they get up to 3 records is because back when labels were creating singles with artists, what they would do is they would create the radio record version with clean, with no swears. Then you would have the explicit version, and then you would have the instrumental. And that would be given to the DJs, that would be given to the radios. That way they could choose what they're going to use for whatever promo they're going to use.
Yeah.
And then that developed into albums after 10 minutes. So after 10 minutes, that's when you start walking into an EP. And that EP can range from 3 to 6 or 7 songs. By the 7th song, you're pretty much working into an album. But when you break it down to these numbers, it's confusing, because it's like, all right, so 7 songs, is that an album or an EP? But what matters is the playtime.
Okay.
So an EP has to be under 30 minutes. So if you make 7 or possibly even 8 songs under 30 minutes in length, now it's considered an EP.
Yeah, but it has to be that limit number of 7 songs, right?
Yeah.
If it gets over 7 songs too, then that's over.
That one, I think, I feel like that's where it kind of goes crazy, because I know that when I released a project called The Long Story Short, the EP. Granted, I didn't actually put it on streaming platforms because I didn't own all the beats like that. It was actually pretty much just jacking for beats. But the playtime of it was only like 24 minutes.
Okay.
But I think I had 7 or 8 songs on it. One interlude, intro or whatever, like something super, super short.
Okay.
But I think the playtime is where it matters. And what me and you were talking about, like before we even hop on camera, is like, well, shit, if a single is considered 1 to 3 songs under 10 minutes, I said, well, what if I made 9 songs and they all played for 1 minute? Is that considered still a single? This is a theory I almost want to see played out, just to see, like, I almost want to go out of my way, make a whole project of nine records all at a minute, and then release that shit to see if it pops up as a single or not.
That'll be very interesting.
Just to figure it the fuck out.
That's part of figuring it the fuck out.
Just to see
That's a case study right there.
Right, a case study, facts. You know what I mean?
Because, man, up until this point, so the distributors are really the ones labeling this based off when you release it, how you release it, as a group together. Did they all right, let me ask this. If they all have the same cover art, is that what groups it together also?
Yeah.
Like what if they all had different cover arts? I feel like then they might divide it up,
Yeah, but in the digital world now, so the way that things are now is that there's ISRC codes that are, I hate saying ISRC codes because the C stands for codes, but ISR codes that are attached to that single. So even if that single has a different cover, you can still loop it in, because what people normally do is they'll release these singles that normally either are going into an EP or an album. Like you could have song 1 drop January, song 2 drop February, song 3 drop March. But then by April, you're dropping the whole EP or the album, and those 3 singles that have different covers are all getting under now what would be the conglomerate for the album.
I get it a little bit there. So timing is key in this whole thing.
Yeah, the play length, yeah.
Well, I'm talking about release timing. So if you dropped if you dropped 3 records, you plan them to all be singles, but they're all on the same date, same cover art, they might get grouped together as a single. But if you dropped one of them in April and the next one in May, they're going to be 2 different singles probably because the dates are different, right?
I think you're kind of getting confused because the ISRC codes is what separates the record. So like if you're dropping song 1 with its own code, song 2 is going to have a different code. They're going to have different cover arts. Now, there's this marketing strategy which is called the waterfall or the drip fall, where you can release a single and then release another single the next month, but then include that first single into the new release, even though it has a new cover. As long as the ISRC codes are attached to it, if somebody were to click it, they could still link that back to the original. So even though it's looking like
the ISRC codes, those are the identifiers.
Yeah, kind of like the UPC codes, but in a digital footprint. UPC code represents a project in its entirety, whereas the ISRC code is kind of like the thumbprint for that individual record.
Okay.
Because when we release records through distribution, they normally give you free ISRC codes. You can either purchase or the distributor will give you the free ISRC codes and a UPC code. UPC code relates to if somebody buys that one song, it's considered that album. Yeah. But if you take that song and you also want to put it on a full-length album, now it's going to have a different UPC. It's going to have the same ISRC code, which is the digital thumbprint, but it's going to have a different UPC code because now it's different. Now it's a different project. Now it's a whole album.
Yeah.
I know it gets confusing. So like to piggyback off of, you know what I'm saying? To really break down initially what we were saying is a single is 1 to 3 records, which could either be the same one record, explicit, clean, in an instrumental version, or it could be 3 completely separate records considered as one single, as long as it plays under 10 minutes. Anything over 10 minutes, it becomes an EP. And that is maxed out at 30 minutes. Once you hit 30 minutes or more, that's when it becomes an album. And the album is what is considered an LP. But LP also used to have the language is that it would be the long play of the album. So you could have an album of 12 songs, playing over 30 minutes, which is an album. But let's say if you want to release the deluxe version, that would almost be like, here's a few bonus tracks, here's the deluxe version, I added 3 more songs to the album. Now that's more considered the LP, because this is a longer play form.
Yeah. I mean, hey, brothers, if you want to come hurt your brain, then come be a manager or a dude who really dives into the metadata you know,
like I do.
Or artists, yeah. Like, so, woo. I mean, so the next stage, I guess, so going to that, you're breaking down the EP. I'm going to break down what they say about the EP here.
Yeah.
An EP is considered 1 to 3 songs with one song of at least 10 minutes in length and a total running time of 30 minutes or less, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Or an EP is considered 4 to 6 songs with a total running time of 30 minutes or less. See, it seems when it hits to that over 6 or 7 songs, it changes the format a little. Then it might be going into LP range.
Yeah, or album range. LP is longer. LP is like the last. And LP is like not even really used like that anymore.
Yeah, it really just becomes an album.
Single, EP, album, and then LP.
Okay.
Because an album could be a short album, like I said. It could be 10 songs and only play for 35 minutes. That's mad short. But if you end up adding a few more songs to it, now it's like, oh, this whole album's really long. This whole album's an hour long.
And obviously when you're putting it through the metadata and distribution, you're going to be kind of saying if all these records are put together as a single or not, or as an EP. They ask you those questions, like, what is this? Do you consider this an EP, a single, stuff like that when you're putting it out? So that also helps them identify a little bit.
It does, but it also kind of gets confusing depending on distributor that you're using, because if you are uploading a single,
oh shit,
it'll only allow you to upload one song. So it's almost like in order to upload the 3-song single, you have to upload what would be whatever it says. Either it'll say EP or album. You would click that, and then you could upload your 3 songs that would end up being the single. So that's where I think some of the shit kind of gets, like muddied up, because people don't understand what would be the single or what would be the album, how long. Like I told you, I don't even want to say it completely, like quote unquote, but I believe if you're going to the Grammys or something and you're trying to win an award for like best album or something like that, the album has to at least play for at least 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's from theirs. But it's like, that's not even an album. Album is supposed to be considered 30 minutes or above. So if you got 30 minutes and above, which is considered an album, but I can win best album just by giving you 15 minutes. It's kind of like, everybody has these little weird stipulations, you know what I'm saying?
If I thought I was confused before, now niggas are winning awards for things that are supposed to be formatted one way, but it's formatted another way.
Right.
But the Grammys don't care. They're going to give you the album award.
Yeah, right. Imagine that. You give a whole LP and like you get smoked by somebody who released a 15-minute EP that's considered best album of the year type shit. Like, and I don't think anybody's ever even won that in that case. I just remember when I looked up some of these numbers, it was like, damn, 15 minutes has to you need 15 minets to qualify for this.
Like Drake said,
you need 30 minutes to qualify for that.
Mixtape sounded like an album.
Facts. Getting smoked out by mixtapes. It's crazy. At the end of the day, if you're putting quality content out, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't really matter what name you want to stick on it. You know what I'm saying?
I know I think you broke this down, but for those who didn't catch it, EP is extended play.
Yes. Extended play.
Long play.
Yeah.
Just to break that all down, album, obviously an album. What they got here for an album definition is an album is considered to be 6 or more songs running over 30 minutes in length, like Kaseek was saying, and considered to be one product. So it seems like when you divide them too, obviously, when you're putting it through the metadata and the distribution and all the back end stuff, that obviously separates it too. It gets the signal like, okay, this was supposed to be an album or this was supposed to be an EP.
Yeah.
But going into that time length of things, they might, all right, that's the next question. So going into that time length of things, say you classified it as an EP, but then you're putting it in, loading it in, and the length of it all is album worthy.
Yeah.
Is the distributor going to take it upon themselves to just be like, all right, this is an album. What is he talking about?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure even with the language that you just read it at, it sounds like even if you were to try my method of saying, fuck it, I'm going to record 9 songs for 1 minute. That's 9 minutes. It's not a full 10 minutes. I'm going to consider this a single. It sounds like if I even upload it, it's automatically going to understand it or perceive it as an album or EP. And that could happen. And it's like that right there. At that point, you're pretty much just leaving it up to them to call that. Because there's so many ways around that. I could record 9 songs and put 9 different songs on a single, or I could just take all these 9 songs and put little brief intermissions in between them.
Yeah.
That would make one song and you just play the one song straight through.
So now that we broke all that down, fried, has smoke coming out of our ears a little bit. What would you recommend for a newer artist right now, just breaking in? Let's say they got 10 songs recorded.
Yeah.
What's the best way to break out their rollout? Should they approach it the single way, or should they go and just put out an EP?
Yeah, that literally depends on what they have envisioned, because artists are always like, we always stand in our own ways. We're always like, oh, we need to do this and we got to do this. And we're like this mastermind, like, I got to do this and you're going to listen to all this shit. Like, we got all this extra shit, but it really doesn't matter for the listener. The listener just wants to hear great music. But if I had to say, if I was starting out, me personally, day one, I woke up out of bed, I'm like—
In 2024.
Yeah, I'm Kaseek Ortiz, 2024. I want to start doing some music. And I have 10 songs in my back pocket. I personally would probably, and this is even my go-to now, but I would take those 10 songs, or would you say 9 or 10? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, around that range.
Whatever, 9, 10 songs. You got these records in your back pocket. What I would do is I would build the content around each song and then release them individually as singles, whether it be once a month or release 2 songs a month. I would probably, me personally, the way I move, I'd probably at least do once a month and have a bunch of content. And what I mean by content, I mean music videos, lyric videos, behind the scenes content of me making a song. Because I record, mix, and master, I would record that myself, of me doing the recording, mixing, and mastering. I would even record myself on fucking trying to distribute the record. Any pieces of content that I can make that surrounds this song, I would do it. And I would legit do it with 3 to 5 pieces of content at the bare minimum for each record that I would drop. That's why I would do 1 song a month. If I have 10 songs, now I have 10 songs for the entire year.
That's a good rollout, I think. And they'll get to test the water on each release.
Yeah. If I'm banging out 5 pieces of content, I want, that many pieces dropping every month.
Yeah.
If you're doing 2 songs in a month, first week is this song, last week is this song, or third week is this song, have all these pieces of content just sprinkled in between.
I like that. So you got the 10, you're rolling out 1, you're focusing on 1 a month and the promo of that. You got to work the record, release the record, then actually do all this content, keep putting it in people's faces in multiple different ways so it resonates with somebody. Look at the analytics, see how that hits. Then you're going to do it again for another month. If you look at it, that's 10 months. Your whole year, you're hitting them in the head with content. They're reviewing your music. Then you're going to be able to sit back after 10 months and look at the analytics and see which one of those records performed the best. Yeah. And then probably best to double down, triple down, and just push that record even harder. Right. In the meantime, while you're doing all that, you're loading up the chamber and recording.
Yeah. Because even if you make the 3 to 5 pieces of content, like I'm saying, you don't have to stop there. Just because you have 5 pieces of content, that doesn't mean you're like, okay, now I'm just done with the record, move on to the next. If, like he's saying, is you're checking these analytics out and one record is going, keep building content around that. Keep building content around every record you have, if you really believe in them. And then if it was me looking at those analytics or any of that, I might want to play with it, because I could release a record on January and it'd be by itself, whole bunch of content. By February, I can release another record. But because back to the single talk, I can now include that first single that I just released in January in my February release. So when you hear my new song, you're going to see 2 records. You're going to see the one that I released in February and the one I released in January. Then March comes, I'm going to do the same thing. Now, when you look at this new single, you're going to have March's single, February single, and January single. I'll work that maybe into a situation where it becomes its own EP. By the time it hits, 5 records, it becomes its own EP.
Yeah.
So it makes it look like I'm dropping extra pieces of content. Even though some of the records are on it, you already heard the song January, February, and March, but now it's going to come out fully in an EP.
So let's touch on that now that you kind of just did that and sprinkled that in. Now all of a sudden you threw together an EP. Yeah. So walk us through that thought process. So like, you're recording all these records, right? You got a bunch of heat in the tank. Yeah. How do you formulate that into an EP?
By you having those singles coming out? Like, how would I formulate it?
Yeah, you just recorded a bunch of records. Yeah. You didn't have any thought process in mind as far as what's going to be single, EP, anything. And then now you're looking at 30 records.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you do when you go through that? Like, I know it all depends on the game plan. If you were sticking to the single thing, and we've been there, where we're in our head thinking like, we're gonna bang them down the head with singles. But then you come across 5, 6, 7 records that they kind of got either a similar sound or would sound good together.
Yeah. And when they start sounding good together, it's probably like a good idea to start really sticking them together for a full project. But what I would do and what it is that I'm currently doing, maybe it's my ADHD that affects me, that makes me feel like overwhelmed because I have 30 records. I have like 40 records ready to go. So I'm kind of like, what the fuck do I do with all these? My game plan is still pretty much I would push these singles, whether it be once a month or twice a month with a bunch of content surrounded it, at least 3 to 5 pieces of content. I would probably introduce that waterfall drip feature where January's release is also going to be considered on February's release. February and January's release is also going to be considered on March, which means that every time I drop a new single, there's more than one single attached to it. So in case you didn't hear the record I released last month, you're going to hear it on this month's.
Okay, so what you're saying is you're bringing back the previous month records you dropped and reintroducing them as you're dropping the new ones.
Right, up and further 3, because once you get into the EP, that's when you're talking about anything over 10 minutes. So
that's a lot of TikTok drops, man.
A whole lot of TikTok drops, a whole lot of different covers I'm making. So that's what I would end up doing is I would create that and I would consistently drop these singles. And then I would either, if I'm only by myself, I would really have a real conversation with myself and understand like, yo, these songs would sound better together. So let me package this as an EP. But when I package this as an EP, are any of these songs going to come out as a single to lead up to the EP?
Yeah.
Or I would either
good game plan.
Or I would either take the ones that I would consider throwaway records that not throwaway, but these songs don't necessarily sound like they need to be on an EP or album together. I'll use these as promo up until my EP, because once the EP drops, these records sound like they needed to be together.
Shout out to the lost records on the bottom of the hard drive somewhere.
Lost file.
Because every artist got them.
Yep. And you need to put it out before that hard drive decides to fail one day and then you lose all that shit.
Or you lose it or something.
Yeah, you lose it all.
So that's pretty much what that goes back to what you heard Kaseek say many times, unloading the clip.
Yeah.
Unloading the chamber.
Yeah.
Don't let records get stale, and just start dropping them.
Right. You have to, because if not, like I said, the hard drive can fail and then you lose the files and, you know what I'm saying? And then you'll be mad that you'll be kicking yourself mad. I should have just released them. And it's like, no.
And some records also could be circumstantial, like they were good for the time. Maybe a year or two later, you're in a whole different headspace. Life is different, whatever. And it just doesn't fit quite as well.
Yep.
That happens too. You look back like, dang. Or sometimes you look back like, I'm just making way more fire music than then. Like, my shit done upgraded.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I'm like, shit, I need to hurry up and unload these ones because I love these ones a lot more now because I'm just getting better. And that's what I would do, whether it be the single or EP. I would still have a whole bunch of singles, you know what I'm saying? Kind of floating. If I decided I'm packaging an EP or I'm packaging an album, I would just then decide which one of those might be the single that is promoting that album. Either way, it doesn't really matter because I already have a bunch of loosies. Call these like loose cigarettes. I'm just throwing these out here and there to kind of build that because these records are still good enough that when I promote this EP, you're going to be like, damn, all that was fire, but this EP right here is fire or this album is fire. And now I'm just building that content. And while I'm doing that, I would also document everything. Like I said, I know I said 3 to 5 pieces of content, but if you're going through that strategy of like, all right, here's my thought process. I would record myself in my thought process. Like, oh, I'm going to take this single. I'm going to attach it to this single. I'm going to attach this one to this one. So when you guys hear this one, you're going to have no choice but to hear this one.
Yeah, it's creating like a funnel.
Yeah.
Of your music, though.
Yeah.
They're hitting one and then getting led to the next and the next and down the line.
And if you document it, whether you put it out or not, at least you can do your own case study on yourself to see what's working and what's not working. But either way, it's still pieces of content that you can throw out there. Because if you find a success with it, at least you documented the entire process, and now you can show people what it is that you did.
I think there's people out there who
rinse and repeat.
Yeah. They're wondering how to get better, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like, people are going to get to different levels, but if you're putting that much work in, you're going to feel like you worked the record.
Yeah.
You're going to feel like, dang, I really put everything on the line to get this exposed to as many people as possible.
Yeah.
You can't really even quantify, like, all right, how successful a record is if you haven't done that type of work. Because you haven't exposed it to that many people yet. Like, maybe the first 100 people said it was trash, but what about the next 1,000? The next 1,000 you reached might have all loved it. Or maybe all 1,000 said it was trash. Then you know, at least, all right, let's make a different record. Let's hit them with something different next time. I need to get better or something, like one of those. But you're not going to know that if you're not putting the shots up, throwing the music at people's heads.
Most artists, what they'll do is they'll get in their head too much to where once they release the record, they instantly feel like it's old and they don't want to push it because to them, it looks like, oh, I'm promoting some old shit. I don't know. It's whatever. And you never want to do that because not only are you like putting a cap on yourself, if you do that publicly, people are going to look at that like you just kind of shaded yourself.
Yeah, it's like you don't believe in yourself.
Yeah, so it's like you don't want to shade yourself. Like at the end of the day, like you just said, what happened to the 1,000 people? Those 1,000 people that haven't heard it. Just because I released a record or I dropped a project, Status Quo Reloaded, during the pandemic, that's still brand new to people that never heard it.
Yeah, never been introduced to Kaseek.
Right.
Yeah.
As soon as people are introduced, I actually like that project being the first thing that's introduced because I might like this project more than my other projects. But at least I have a whole catalog that when they discover me, they're seeing me on stage with Snow the Product or they're seeing me doing this and they're like, oh, they instantly become a super fan because like, yo, this music is fire. And they have no idea what I'm about to release now.
Build up a fire catalog.
Yeah.
You know, have those records you spent all that time on. You worked to the T. And then have those other records that like, you know, maybe you just had fun with it. Dropped it and you were experimenting.
It should
some
all be
of
fun.
those experiments become beautiful.
All of this should be fun. If nobody's having fun with it, they're doing it for the wrong reasons. That's for sure. Especially if they're starting out. You know, if we're talking to artists that are just starting out or even artists developing now and they're a couple years deep into their game, they should be doing this shit because they love it. If you're not, then it's not really, you're going to end up quitting faster than you think. You have to love it. You still should look at it as like as a small business and treat it like a business, but you should also still have fun with it.
You know, we'll see a lot of these artists who are self-proclaimed artists in this new wave of seeing all these content creators make all this money and get this bag. They're going to drop their names out and become content creators, short form creators. That's going to shake out a lot of the people who call themselves artists because really it was all for a money grab in the first place anyway.
Yeah.
So they're just following the money train. The real artists are going to stick to, I'm an artist, I'm doing this music shit.
Yeah.
And right now, Kaseek, Ben Grizz, GGF team, they're artists that make content.
I'm here for the longevity. I'm not going nowhere, so.
Exactly. So that's what it's all about. And this is Figure It the Fuck Out. We gave you some gold here today. We'll tap in with you soon.
Maybe. No, I'm just kidding. We're definitely tapping in soon.
We'll see y'all.
Peace.